What's up, everybody? This is a dangerous episode. First, what Josh Hawley said he found and ran into when he went to visit the Butler County, Pennsylvania site that Trump was attacked at. Look at what he said he encountered.
Get it at all, but I tell you one thing. Today, Sean, when I went to the site, the FBI has got more security on that site now than they did the night that Trump was shot at. I mean, the FBI, totally late, and they're trying to control the information. Sean, they tried to kick me off of the site. They said, get out of here. You shouldn't be on the site. We don't want you here.
Get out of here?
They are trying to control the information. Absolutely. They brought local
Unreal.
cops, Sean. Get this. I'm there on site. I had permission from the local security operator to be there, and the FBI came out and said, you have got to leave. We do not want you here. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to control it.
So we have that. Very interesting with the limited amount of information that's coming out. Like, we've been asking for simple ballistic reports. How many shots are fired? Where did the bullets go? Nowhere to be found on the internet. Was there a ladder? How'd they kick it up on the roof? Simple, logical questions. Now, one of my favorite people on YouTube, Chris Martinson, he was absolutely crucial during the 2020 to 2024 period of chaos with the stuff that we were not supposed to talk about on the internet. He did it in a very delicate, artful way, and he's at it again, deep dive with the ballistics audio from the Trump assassination attempt. And what do you know? I said it from the beginning. This feels like a situation where there's a second shooter, and this audio file proves 100% beyond a doubt that there's a second 100% shooter and potentially even a third shooter. And that's not including the shot that killed the sniper that was on the roof. So take a listen to this. I trimmed it down from the original file. And like I said, his name is Chris Martinson. His channel is Peak Prosperity. Definitely check it out. I'm showing this to you because it's vital information, and I know he would want it to be shown to as many people as possible because that's why he's talking about this dangerous topic.
Audio proof that there were at least two shooters shooting at Trump and the crowd, and therefore the official story of a lone gunman is complete bunk. First up, they tell us that the shooter was here. This is very accurately located on the roof off of the drain pipe, as we've covered before. I'll show you that one more time. I just want to make sure we're all sharing the same orientation because this is important, right? And we have two victims here. Comparator, who died, another guy who's very severely injured. He has life-altering injuries. And then another gentleman back here in the upper right part of the stand. I'm going to show you all this evidence, okay? So first up, we need to know where all the shots went, right? And I'm going to show you that the first three shots came from a very different weapon in a different location than the next string of shots that came out. It's either 5 or 6, depending on how you count. But you decide, listen, it couldn't be more clear how different they are. This is the picture from on the roof of, Crooks lying here dead. There's a little blood trailing down back here, but this allows us to locate him on the roof very, very accurately because of this raised seam metal roof. And now the story is that there's actually, you can't see it in this photo, but there's a 5-foot ladder here. Apparently he came up, would have come across, would have jumped down onto here, would have come up. Maybe that explains why his backpack, if that's what that is left there, came over to here. Apparently some other cop would have been lifted up and looked over a roof line. I don't know. This is the audio file. I pulled it into a program called Audacity, right, off of that video. And I find on here 9 separate shots, okay? So I find 3, then a grouping of 5, and then one last one out there. Number 9, I think, this is the sniper shot that would have, I think, looks like it took out Crooks just above the left eyebrow, if you want. So we have those first 3 shots, then we have the 5, and then that last one. I'm not going to worry about the last one as much, but we're going to have to look at these first sets very, very carefully here. So here is video number 1. Just to orient ourselves, I count off of this video 15.8 seconds from the very first to the very last shot. So the AP article that said, Crooks took a shot and was neutralized by snipers within seconds. What they meant was 15.8 seconds, unless I have this story wrong. Next, we're going to look at these first 3 shots here so you understand how we can analyze the rest of them. And so here's the shot. This is the sonic crack. So that's the bullet is the blue arrows. And then the report is going to be the black arrows. So that's the crack, thump, crack, thump, crack, thump. And of course, it was the first bullet that nicked Trump's ear. And again, let me get my thing here. Here's what it sounds like. Okay, so now I've just isolated the sound. There it is. One last time just to make sure we're hearing this right. There's 0.22 seconds between the crack and the thump, and knowing a little bit about the type of the bullet that was used and the caliber of it and the air conditions and things like that, you can estimate the distance of the shooter and how far away the shooter was. So that 0.22 second gap between the crack and the thump is very important because it helps us identify that a gun is being shot from that distance. If there were any other lengths, like if we saw crack, thump, crack, thump, we would clearly see that that was 2 separate weapons because assuming the first and the last cracked thumps were the same distance apart. So if there's any variation between the crack and the thump, that's when you say, oh, that's a different weapon. So that's one way. The other way is just the tenor of just the sound of the weapon. Does it sound different? Now, this is interesting. This woman here had put up a video on TikTok here, because this is one of the videos, only videos that I know about, that shows, I think, the first stand victim getting shot. So
I've never seen this before he showed up.
I'm over on the far right or far left of Trump. These are the same bleachers. Watch the top left. These are the same exact bleachers. These are to the left of Trump.
See that?
Those shots.
Okay. What I've done here is, so I just want us to look at, I just pulled out that one tiny section. You can clearly see a bullet careening off of this railing up here, and it does it with enough force to atomize and vaporize. And so I think this is an important clue. We'll see. So let's just look at that over and over again. Pew, did you see that? Again. Pew, see that? Okay, oops, one more time. And again. So you can clearly see this shot happening. Now, this gentleman who's right, and get my laser pointer back, this gentleman right here is in a very, very distinctive American flag shirt of some kind. You can see him hunch over there a little bit, and I'm pretty sure that that shot that you see careening off the rail struck him first. And the reason I think that struck him first, because we showed this before, is from this video that's after the fact. We're on the right side of the stands. You can see he's being brought down. And you can see here, he's holding, I'll get my laser pointer back. He's holding his right chest, holding that, right? With his left arm is coming over. So his right chest, I don't know the extent of his injuries. I can't find any updates in the media right now, so we're going to be watching out for that. But if he was struck in that upper right chest and the bullet still managed to take something off of the railing into a puff, we see a very clear puff there. I don't think that's a .223 round. .223 round, a little 55 or a 62 grain bullet. When they hit, they tend to tumble. This would have to have had enough force to have nicked Trump's ear, if I'm right about this being the first shot, nicked his ear, traveled in, struck this gentleman, and still had enough force to vaporize either the railing or that was the bullet itself atomizing. That was what that gray puff was. More likely that's a larger caliber round, but that's a guess, pure hypothesis, pure conjecture. I'm just throwing it out there as a placeholder, but that would be more consistent with something, say, in a 308, some 30 caliber sort of a round, something with enough energy to penetrate and still atomize and vaporize on the back railing. But again, just a guess. Doesn't matter, just speculation.
And real quick, keep in mind, we still have not gotten patterns that show that the, two people that were hit, one was killed, one was injured, and then that hydraulics equipment that starts spraying after the shots were fired. We still don't know for sure that all lines up in a perfect line with Trump. Just to make that clear.
Kind of irrelevant. But again, if we're back here, again so I think you can see that puff right there. See that? Oops, sorry. And puff. 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 So he's been hit, and also it's on his right side. So, and if you see how he's oriented, he's all the way up against the back with his right side tipped towards the back. So this is as high up as you can get. Now, the other thing I need to point out about that is he is all the way in the highest row of bleacher seats. Those things start roughly at about stage level, which is about 3.5, 4 feet in the air, and then they go up level. So if you said it's, I don't know, a foot or foot and a half per level, he's clearly many feet up in the air, and he's standing. So that bullet that struck him has to be, I don't know, pick a number, 12, 15 feet in the air, pretty high up. And that's going to become important again in just a second. All right. So this is plausible for the first shot then. Okay. We see here, if the shots came from the rooftop shooter first, then comes across the podium. Trump would have been standing right about there and could have struck somebody standing in the back right where that gentleman was with the flag shirt who got hit. So that's entirely plausible. But except it's a little bit more consistent with a rising shot, because if we put the podium at about 3.5 feet, 4, let's call it 4, we'll put Trump at 6'3", but take 3 inches off, so 10 feet. 10 feet, that bullet goes whizzing by his ear. But if this is why we need all the trajectories, that's why we need all this mapped out, that's why we need an absolute accounting of every single shot taken. If that was the first shot that struck that gentleman, okay? And that's why if I had that unmolested video and I could piece it in, I could tell you exactly. So hold this as just a bunch of conjecture until we have more. But if that gentleman was struck by the same bullet that took Trump's ear, that means that thing must have been on a rising trajectory, because Trump's at 10 feet. And then further back, this guy, his chest is probably at 13, 14 feet. It's higher in the air. That would have been more consistent with a shot fired from lower down that was then rising instead of a shot fired from the roof, which would have been declining and coming down. I'm giving you this because this is going to be in a few slides. You're going to see why I'm making a point about this. Okay, so The audio from video 1, when we look at it here, the first 3 shots we can make complete sense of. Okay, fine. Then there's a 4th shot that arrives, and it does so with a bullet and a report at 0.212 seconds, close enough for government work here, or rough analysis. Here's another bullet and a report, so that's the snap, crack. There's echoes. We see there's echoes, so the bullet makes it, and then the sound is echoing, probably off of one of the buildings. We have a lot of flat surfaces back there. So the microphone is here, supersonic crack, and the crack makes it to the microphone, and then it echoes off of something. And so we see the crack and an echo. We could probably very, very accurately estimate how far away that flat surface is off of that echo, and then you get the report itself. Crack, thump, crack, thump. So shots 4 and 5, I'm still pretty good with shots 4 and 5 in terms of being able to make sense of them. From 6 on, man, it gets all kinds of weird. And I'm not going to take you through the weirdness from video 1 to try and resolve what's happening with those other shots. We're now going to turn to video 2. This really clarifies everything and makes the entire case. I do want to pre-stage this a little bit, and for yourself, decide for yourself, does 1, 2, and 3, do they sound the same at all compared to the other ones that you hear? Okay, and remember, we already have the analysis from audio experts elsewhere saying there's a difference between weapon A and weapon B. And I can show you that the rounds fired from weapon B were also aimed at the stage. Okay, so this is important. 2 weapons, one fires a string of 3, another fires a string of 5 or 6, depending on how we count, and off they go. And they were also out hitting the crowd and headed towards Trump. Okay, this is important because now we do not have a lone gunman anymore. Okay, so listen up. Here we go.
Oh, that's such a different gun. That's 3 different shots.
That one more. That's the 6. I'm unclear on. Let's listen to this again. Muffled, and then right. That's what I hear. Oh. So video 2, the way I score it, there's about 16.0 seconds from first to last shot, so very consistent with what we're experiencing on the first audio, so that's nice. They kind of line up pretty well. And here's the whole audio from all that screaming and the shots from video 2. We have in blue the first 3 shots here. We have more shots here from a second weapon. I'm not sure about this one. It has a very different sound that we heard. And here's the final last shot, which I believe is from, oops, sorry, don't have my thing. You don't know what I'm pointing at. This is the 5 that make a very distinct sound. Here's one with a very different crack in it. That's the 6th shot in the string. And then here we have the final last one, which I think is the sniper weapon, which is probably the one that put the bullet just over the left eye of Crooks on the roof. Here's 1, 2, and 3 to start. Okay, listen to that again. And one more time. Okay, now let's listen to the next string. Ooh. Yeah. Hear that? So this here's a shot. This is an echo. Very clearly an echo, and a shot and an echo, and a shot and an echo. So this is actually critical evidence because you hear that there's echoes coming off. So that also allows us, again, to analyze where was this gun. But first up, we just have an absolutely different sound between the first 3. There's no echo. It's much further away. It's more muffled. It's just not in the same place at all. But these next ones, very different sound. Totally different weapons. Okay. Full stop. We have 2 separate weapons. Plus, we have no echoes coming off of the first 3, and then we do have echoes coming off of the next set.
And real quick, very interestingly, CNN reported on this 2 days after the shooting happened. So real quick, check this out. July 15th from CNN. Audio forensics suggests as many as 3 weapons fired at Trump rally, with only 1 shot coming from the police or Secret Service, whoever had the kill shot on the person that was on the roof. You haven't heard a peep about that since the day of the shooting, or the day after, whenever this was, 2 days after the shooting.
And that last one, that's different. That's not the sniper shot. The sniper shot is another 10 seconds later. So I don't know what number 6 is here, but we're just going to bookmark it for now and go on. So audio analysis conducted by Nick tells us that
This is big.
if those next string of shots, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are coming from shooter, or who we're going to call shooter 2, because shooter 1 is sending off those muffled ones. Shooter 2, it's very consistent. If somebody was on the roof firing something with a 223 round, those, and here's where audio 2 is recorded from. That we've isolated exactly where the person was standing. They were walking, so there's a little movement, but they were basically right here. The echoes we have is perfectly consistent with conditions, atmospheric conditions of the day, to have bounced off of this building, because that's what you need for an echo. You need a hard, flat surface to echo off of. So that's what we got. We have an echo that perfectly lines up with somebody being up there in shooter number 2 position. Now, here's where it gets a little weirder. So what I've done, and this is, I've taken the first timeline. This is the video number 1's audio, and I've lined it up with video number 2's audio. And for the most part, we're in pretty darn good shape, right? Here you can see, so this is the supersonic crack. So that's the crack of the bullet arriving. And I've lined that up with what I did. I just shifted the timelines to line up with, this is the report of the gun. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gun plus the 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've lined up that first blast of the gun with the arrival of the bullet so that it should be consistent, because if you have the explosion, the arrival of it downstream, they ought to line up, right? The timings ought to be the same. So sure enough, shot 1, no problemo, lines up perfectly. This is an echo up top there. Here's the echo down here for shot 1. The top bullet is echoing off of whatever it's echoing up there near the stage. And this is echoing probably off of that building surface we just showed you. So shot 1, 100%, we're good to go. Shot 2, same thing, lines up perfectly. It's got an echo right here. That's that little peak right there. And it's got an echo up top. Everything lines up. Shot 3, though, remember this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one doesn't line up. This one is actually, this shot happens about 0.03 seconds earlier. There's not alignment. It should be right under this peak, but it's not, which means the shot happened 0.03 seconds. It took 0.03 seconds longer for that bullet to get downstream, right, to the microphone in front of the Trump platform there. If that, what does that mean? Well, that means that it's somewhere between, depending on the caliber and, maybe the caliber. I don't have any bullets here. I can't guarantee anything. Depending on a lot of things, the muzzle velocity of whatever this projectile was, and things like that. That 0.03 seconds, assuming it's 2,600 feet per second, that's how fast this thing's traveling. Could be 2,500, could be 3,000. I don't know what they're using, so you have to make some guesses. But it's further away. This implies the possibility that shots 1 and 2, those are fired by crooks, but somebody about 78 to 100 feet further away took shot 3. Then shots 4 and 5 line up again perfectly, but shot 6, hey, that's off the mark again by the same amount.
Literally where stuff from the beginning.
Oh, there's not quite the echoes that are happening off of shot 3. You don't see the same. There should be an echo right here. There should be an echo right here. We don't see that, not like these big echoes. So there's a chance here. I'm making a chance that there's a possibility of there were 2 weapons being fired that are different from the first one. 1, 2, 3 are from weapon 1. Weapon 2 for sure is in a different spot, but there's a possibility because of those times of weapon 3. So it could be that 1, 2, 4, 5 were taken by crooks on the roof because he heard some stuff going on, decided to take his shots, but 3 and 6 were taken by somebody else another 100 feet away. I don't know. We're going to need more professional audio analysis, but I like it when everything lines up, and everything does line up until we get to there. And then further down the timeline, things get really weird. And things aren't lining up, but we don't know who's firing down at that end of the spectrum either. So some weird stuff down there, but it doesn't line up really well enough for my taste. Okay, so hypothesis. What do we have here? Okay, here's the hypothesis. At least 2 shooters, maybe 3. Don't know. The first 3 shots, I suspect my hypothesis is they came from inside the building. All right? They were inside that, like if Crooks was on the roof, in the window, those shots came in from down below. Why do I think that? Because that ensures that the crack boom.
Remember the building that apparently police and snipers were inside of. He's saying that the audio evidence shows shots could have come from inside that building.
Are consistent with the Patsy on the roof. The angles are the same. The crack boom isn't off. There's nothing to analyze, right? If those first 3 shots come out from below Crooks, then it all lines up, right? And this aligns with what we have from video number 2's audio, where it's more distant, it's a muffled sound that would be more consistent with being inside. We don't have, it's also the upward slope of that bullet, right? Now that begins to line up if it's true that back victim was struck with bullet 1, and also all the lack of echoes. So everything's consistent with that hypothesis, and it's just a hypothesis. I'm just trying to, put some meats on the bones of what might have happened here, because I know for a fact we had 2 guns. period. Maybe 3. I could make a case for 3. I'm not as solid on that. I'm going to wait for expert analysis. But we don't need any further expert analysis to understand there were 2 weapons being fired at the stage, right? Because here's what happened. These next string of shots down here, which I'm highlighting, this is the recording from video 2. This is, sorry, video 2's, yeah, audio 2, video 2. Video 1, which is taken from the microphone right at the front where Trump is, these are sonic signatures. So these booms led to these cracks, right? These explosions of this weapon resulted in bullets making sonic booms right over the microphone down at Trump stage. So let's be clear. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wasn't like, oh, because I can hear it all right. They're like, oh, well, the Beaver County Emergency Services Unit saw him and climbed up and blah, 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 blah. Really, I guess that's what it was. That's not what it was. This second weapon that was fired, leaving the echoes and that sharper crack, that was fired towards the stands. So we have 2 shooters, guaranteed, full stop. Okay. In the second group of shots, I'm positive that 1, 2, 4, and 5, pretty sure those were fired by crooks. Lines up with everything, the echoes, and the snaps recorded downrange, all that. Now, shots 3 and 6 are puzzling. Again, expert analysis will be required here, not me. I'm just a doof with audacity and some common sense. But their delayed arrival downrange suggests they were taken 78 to about 95 feet further back than Crook's position. That would be consistent with somebody being on one of those other roofs just behind him, just in case. The sonic cracks tell us that everything was fired in Trump's and the audience's direction. That means they weren't taking out crooks with these shots. This means the lone shooter theory is 100% false.
Yep. Just like I said from the beginning. You know what? Let me brag a little bit and play that. Sorry, I'm going to be unbearable for a good amount of time because I was saying this the day that it happened. This is like a few hours after the assassination attempt happened on Trump, and people were saying, oh, too soon. Come on. There's already conspiracies here. Don't make like a far-fetched conspiracy. No, I said this right away because this is always the way it goes. Look, people are saying, oh, if this was an inside job, why would they have some amateur 20-year-old kid do it? Because that's U.S. government political assassinations 101. You always have a very visible patsy with the professional far out of sight. The way this building's set up, the guy could have been all the way on the other side of the building. Yep.
I mean, a real pro could be 1,000 meters away, 10 times what the shot was, and make the shot. I think that the dead body that we see was a patsy. Some vulnerable kid who is MK Ultra'd.
Boom. And based on empirical, unarguable audio evidence, scientific, trust the science, that is what it is. And, more than anything, you could say the blatant lack of security lapses that would show a stand down order was given. You could say the fact that they're trying to establish Iran connections to this kid now, saying that he had accounts in Iran or made contact with Iran, and they have this goofy report coming out saying that Iran made a threat on Trump's life weeks before this happened. They're trying to make all these Iran ties now, and Blinken was on today saying some nonsense about I have that clip. Where is it? Yep, here, watch this nonsense quick.
To stop them?
Well, by far the preferable way to do it would be through diplomacy. Where we are now is not in a good place. Iran, because the nuclear agreement was thrown out, instead of being at least a year away from having the breakout capacity of producing fissile material for a nuclear weapon, is now probably 1 or 2 weeks away from doing that.
Some other things are coming out, like the shooter had 3 encrypted accounts overseas. At the same time, we're having an Iranian plot. I think this is going to go much broader, much deeper.
So they're teeing up this shit now, this narrative. They're saying the shooter had connections to Iran. They're saying that Iran's going to have nuclear capabilities in a few weeks now because we got out of the Iran treaty. Guys, if you don't know what the Iran treaty was, the Iran treaty was that we were giving them billions of dollars in return for a promise that they would not enrich their uranium to a certain degree, which would make it weaponizable. Trump used the stick instead of the carrot because, and on top of bribing them basically to not build these weapons or enrich their uranium, we weren't even checking and inspecting their facilities. So ridiculous notion. When you're dealing with thugs, gangsters, ruthless killers around the world, you have to be scary, feared, not loved. So In addition to that, the fact that they're saying this kid doesn't have a digital footprint, that they're having a hard time finding social media accounts, text things, yada, yada. But we've given up all of our fucking rights to privacy through the Patriot Act. I mean, what, we don't get anything out of that? Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Don't buy it for a second. And this is what's beautiful about the age we're living in right now, is that people have cameras everywhere. People have the ability to study things, make their own videos, do their own research. You know, when this happened to JFK, there are 3 cameras, or no, 1 camera and 3 news stations. Imagine if we had the technology we had today when the JFK thing happened. It'd be the same thing. You'd be like, oh, what was happening there? Oh, what's going on? How do people not see that? So big mistake by the deep state. But I am concerned about this because they seem to be in dire straits where they're in desperation mode, like a rabid, cornered animal who's in kill or be killed mode. You think it's a coincidence that the day after the RNC, where Trump gave this electric speech and everybody's in love with him now, that the biggest IT failure, cyber attack in all of history happened? No, not for a second. You know, the World Economic Forum was talking about a cyber pandemic a year ago. They were saying that cybersecurity is the biggest threat to the world. It could collapse the whole financial system. Well, this stupid update from CrowdStrike going wrong, having uploading a bad piece of code into their system, took out airplanes, hospitals, banks all across the world, brought things to a screeching halt. So I think between what we've seen with what happened with AT&T earlier this year, between what happened with Facebook earlier this year, they are testing out the groundwork to see what it would take exactly to neutralize social media, communications, transportation, everything, internet, everything, all ability to communicate with each other if they ever needed to. Because I would imagine they would potentially do something like that if we were upset about something. And what does that cause? A state of emergency. Can't have an election during a state of emergency. Don't get twisted. The deep state, the globalists, the cabal, they're very open about what their plans are. You just have to pay attention. Not enough people pay attention. But the number of people who are paying attention is growing, which is why the pressure on the establishment is growing. Continue to watch shows like this, like Chris Martinson, like Valuetainment, like Patrick Bet-David. People who love America and want to share the truth with you. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, share. This is a video that you should definitely be sharing with as many people as possible. Thank you guys. Love you all. Bye.